61 years on this earth teaching myself to read people, and my future son-in-law couldn't pass a test I ran in a flannel shirt and worn-out boots. My name is Roy Callahan. For 22 years I sat on a federal bench in Atlanta, Georgia, and watched every flavor of human dishonesty parade itself in front of me. Con men, fraudsters, white-collar predators in $6,000 suits who smiled at the jury and lied through every single tooth. I've seen it all. I know the smell of performance. I know the specific way a man's eyes shift when he's calculating rather than feeling. Preston Whitfield had that shift. I noticed it the second Saturday in March when Savannah brought him to Sunday dinner at our house on Ashford-Dunwoody Road in Brookhaven. He was charming, articulate, said sir exactly often enough to seem respectful without seeming rehearsed, complimented Nora's cooking with the right amount of specificity, asked me thoughtful questions about my investment work, too thoughtful, the kind of questions a man asks when he's done research, not when he's genuinely curious. Nora squeezed my hand under the table that night after Preston left. Roy, he's wonderful. He's something, I said. She gave me the look. The one that means don't you dare, Roy Callahan. I've been married to Nora for 34 years, and that look has never once stopped me from doing what I was already planning to do. I called Hank Briggs the next morning. Hank Briggs and I went to Emory Law together in 1984. He became an investigator. I became a judge. Between the two of us, we have seen the full spectrum of what people do when they think nobody important is watching. Hank has a laugh like a truck engine and a mind like a filing cabinet. Everything goes in. Nothing gets lost. Tell me about this kid, Hank said. We were at his kitchen table in East Atlanta, coffee between us, Monday morning, March 10th. Medical device sales. Dallas originally. Met Savannah at a conference in Charlotte 8 months ago. He's 34, she's 28. They got serious fast. Fast as a flag. Fast as a flag, I agreed. He's done his research on me, Hank. He knew things at dinner, specific things about my portfolio restructure last year, that aren't public. Somebody talked, or somebody dug. Hank wrote something down. What do you want? I want 3 weeks. And I need a favor from Tammy Shore over at the Buckhead venue on Peachtree. The engagement party is April 5th. I want to be on the crew list as a hauler. Hank looked at me over his coffee cup. Slow, the way men look at each other when one of them is about to do something either brilliant or catastrophic. Roy, he needs to pass a test, Hank. I need to see what he does when he thinks the only person watching is nobody. A long pause. Then Hank picked up his pen again and started writing. You're going to need a better flannel than the one you own. Tammy Shore owed me a favor from 2019 that I will not detail here, because it involved a zoning dispute and a city councilman, and the less said the better. She put me on the crew list as R. Callahan Salvage, listed as contracted haul removal for old patio and event furniture stored in the venue's back warehouse. She did not ask questions. Tammy Shore has never once asked a question she didn't want answered. April 5th, Saturday. I arrived at the Peachtree Road venue at 4 in the afternoon. The party started at 7. I had 3 hours in flannel and boots before anyone from Savannah's world arrived, and another 3 hours after that to watch Preston Whitfield operate in his natural habitat. Hank arrived at 4:15 in his own truck. He positioned himself near the loading dock with a clipboard. Nothing makes a man invisible faster than a clipboard. And we communicated by text for the rest of the evening. The venue was beautiful. I'll give Preston's people that. Tall ceilings, warm lighting, a terrace off the back that overlooked a garden lit with string lights. Nora had helped Savannah pick the florals. I could see Nora's taste in every arrangement. Simple, elegant, nothing that tries too hard. Savannah deserves all of this. She deserves someone who knows she deserves it. The guests began arriving at 6:45. Savannah came in at 7 sharp in a pale gold dress, her dark hair up, looking more like her mother every year in ways that do something complicated to my chest. She was glowing, genuinely glowing. Preston was beside her in a navy suit, shaking hands, smiling, working the room with the practiced ease of a man who has done this 100 times. I watched his hands, how he shook them, who he shook them with, whether he let go too fast. I didn't know yet what I was about to hear, but I had a feeling the night wasn't going to end the way Preston planned. For the first 90 minutes I moved furniture, loaded old rental chairs onto a dolly, navigated the loading corridor, positioned myself near the bar twice, once during setup, Once during the opening hour of the party when the catering staff was moving fastest and nobody looked twice at a man in work clothes carrying something. Preston was holding court near the bar with a group of men I didn't recognize. Late 30s, early 40s. Finance crowd. The particular posture of men who measure each other in square footage and portfolio returns. I loaded a dolly 6 feet away, kept my head down, kept moving slowly. Wealthy men talk freely around the help. That was Preston Whitfield's first mistake. His phone rang. He stepped slightly away from the group. Not far, not private, just a social step. And answered. What I heard in the next 90 seconds rewrote everything. Yeah, I know. Listen, the party's good. Everything's on track. A pause. Her old man's loaded, man. Old school money. Doesn't really know what he has. It's all sitting in these boring long-term holds. Needs to be modernized. A laugh. Low. Comfortable. The laugh of a man who thinks he's alone. Once we're in, Miles is going to love what we find. Yeah, keep him ready. We're probably 18 months out. Once we're in, I stood behind the dolly and did not move for 4 full seconds. 22 years on the bench, and I've heard confessions. I've heard testimony. I've heard men explain away things that had no explanation. Nothing landed quite like hearing my future son-in-law describe my daughter's inheritance as a portfolio that needs to be modernized, while she stood 40 feet away in a gold dress, looking at him like he was the answer to something. I texted Hank one word, confirmed. Hank texted back, Miles Sutton is here, northwest corner. Been watching the room since he arrived. I knew the name, Miles Sutton, not personally. Hank had surfaced it 3 weeks earlier during the background pull. Preston's college roommate, now his personal financial advisor. I'd noted it, filed it. I looked toward the northwest corner. Miles Sutton was nursing a drink and watching the exits with the patient. Calculating attention of a man who is not at a party, he is at a job site. I didn't know it yet, but Miles Sutton was about to become a very important part of this story. At 8:15, I ran the second half of the test. Not planned. Instinct. I loaded a heavy metal shelving frame onto the dolly. Genuinely heavy, genuinely awkward, and navigated it through the edge of the main room toward the loading corridor. The route took me within 10 feet of Preston. The dolly caught on an uneven floor tile. The frame lurched. I grabbed it. Controlled, not dangerous, but it made noise. People looked. Preston looked. We made eye contact. Brief. His eyes moved from my face to the dolly to the room. The calculation happened in about 1 second. Not important, not relevant. Move on. He turned back to his conversation. Didn't offer a hand. Didn't acknowledge. Didn't do the thing that costs nothing. The basic human thing of checking whether a person needs help. Hank appeared at my elbow 30 seconds later, clipboard in hand. That's your answer, Hank said quietly. That's my answer, I said. I finished the load. Clocked out with Tammy at 9 p.m. Drove home to Brookhaven. Sat in my car in the driveway for a few minutes, listening to the engine cool. Savannah was still at that party, still glowing, still believing. I went inside, told Nora I was tired. She looked at my face and knew something had happened, and knew better than to ask tonight. I went to my office. Called Leonard Cross. Leonard, I need an appointment Monday morning, and pull the asset transfer documents from last October. All of them. Welcome back to Sweet Family Revenge. Grab your snacks, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment below and make sure you subscribe. You're going to want to be here for what happens next. Sunday morning, April 6th. Savannah came to breakfast glowing. Preston had apparently been wonderful all evening. The guests had loved him. Vivian Whitfield had told Savannah she was exactly what Preston needs, which Savannah took as a compliment and I took as a woman managing expectations. Nora made waffles. I drank coffee and listened to Savannah describe the party with the specific happiness of a woman who doesn't know what her father heard the night before. Don't tell her yet. Not until you have everything. Dad? Savannah looked at me across the table. You're quiet. I'm always quiet on Sundays. You're extra quiet. I'm thinking. About what? I looked at my daughter. 28 years old, smart, careful, the kind of woman who makes good decisions, except that the heart doesn't always consult the brain before making commitments. About the garden, I said. Need to get someone out to look at the back fence. She bought it. Mostly. Nora did not buy it at all. I could tell by the way she refreshed her coffee without looking at me. But Nora trusts my process even when she doesn't know what it is. I didn't know yet that Savannah already had her own doubts. I didn't know she'd been carrying them for 6 weeks waiting for something she couldn't name. Some men walk into an attorney's office looking for options. I walked into Leonard Cross's office on Monday morning with a yellow legal pad, a 4-year-old asset transfer file, and the specific calm of a man who already knows the answer and just needs the paperwork to confirm it. Leonard Cross has been my attorney for 19 years. He is precise, unhurried, and has the remarkable ability to deliver catastrophic legal news in the same tone most people use to discuss weather. In all our years together, I have never once seen him surprised. I have come close twice. This was the third time. He read through my notes. The phone call. Miles Sutton. Once we're in, he set the pad down and looked at me over his glasses. Roy, when did you restructure the portfolio? Last October. Routine annual review. Moved everything into the foundation and Savannah's direct trust. Before Savannah mentioned Preston. 4 months before. Leonard picked up his coffee, set it back down without drinking it. That was the closest I'd ever seen him come to a reaction. So there is nothing liquid in your name. Nothing worth finding. The Brookhaven house? Transferred to Savannah's trust 2 years ago when I retired from the bench. Standard estate planning? Investment accounts? Foundation. All of it. Preston Whitfield's financial advisor has been researching a portfolio that no longer exists. That is correct. He's been planning to access money that isn't there. A pause. Then Leonard did something I had seen exactly once before in 19 years. He smiled. Hank called at noon. I was in Leonard's conference room eating a sandwich from the deli across Peachtree Street and reading through the foundation documents for the 4th time. Miles Sutton. Hank's voice had that particular flatness that means he found something. Want the long version or the short version? Short first. He's been operating a fee-skimming arrangement on at least 4 client accounts over the past 3 years. Small enough percentages that none of the clients noticed. Big enough that it adds up to about $240,000. I put the sandwich down. He's a thief. A careful one. But yeah, a pause. And Roy. 2 of those 4 clients are Preston Whitfield's former colleagues from his Dallas firm. People Preston personally referred to Miles. Preston referred people to a man he knew was skimming. Or Preston referred people to a man he didn't know was skimming. And Miles had been running this without Preston's knowledge. Either way, the picture was getting clearer and uglier by the hour. Can you document it? Already started. Give me a week. You've got 5 days, Hank. He laughed the truck engine laugh. Yes, Your Honor. Monday evening, Savannah called. I was in my home office on Ashford Dunwoody Road. Files spread across the desk, Leonard's preliminary memo open on my laptop. I picked up on the second ring. Hey, sweetheart. Hey, Dad. A pause. The kind with something in it. Can I come over Wednesday evening? Just you and me. Mom can be there, but I want to talk. Of course. I'll tell your mother. She'll make that lemon chicken you like. Dad. Another pause. Longer. Is everything okay? You were weird at breakfast Sunday. I'm always weird. You were differently weird. I looked at the files on my desk. At Leonard's memo. At Hank's preliminary notes on Miles Sutton sitting in a folder with Preston's name on the tab. Come Wednesday, I said. We'll talk. She was quiet for a moment. Okay. Softer now. Okay. I didn't know it yet, but Savannah Callahan had spent the last 6 weeks building her own file. Not legal documents, not investigator reports. Just the slow, careful accumulation of things that didn't add up. Small moments, half answers, the particular way Preston redirected certain conversations that a smart woman catalogs quietly while she's still deciding what to do about them. My daughter is a lot like her father. She just needed confirmation. Wednesday, April 9th. Nora made lemon chicken. Savannah arrived at 6:30. We ate dinner the way our family eats, with conversation that covers 3 topics at once and nobody waiting for a complete sentence before responding. Nora kept things light. I let her. After dinner, Nora cleared the plates, gave Savannah a long hug in the kitchen that lasted about 4 seconds longer than a normal hug, and went upstairs. Savannah and I sat at the kitchen table with decaf coffee. She spoke first. Something's off with Preston, Dad. I kept my face still. Tell me. It's not, it's not one big thing. It's 100 small things. She wrapped both hands around her mug. He asks a lot of questions about your finances. I thought it was just, he's curious, he's in sales, that's how his brain works. But it's specific questions. About the portfolio. About the house. About what happens to everything when you and Mom. She stopped. He brought up estate planning twice in 2 months. We've been engaged for 6 weeks. What did you tell him? I told him I didn't know the details, which is true. She looked at me. Dad, is there something I should know? Tell her enough. Not everything. Not yet. There's something you should probably see, I said. I got up, went to the office, came back with 1 page, not the full file, just Hank's summary of the phone call. Typed up clean, dated, time-stamped. Savannah read it once, read it again, set it down. Once we're in. Not a question. Just reading them again out loud the way you do when you're trying to make something real that your brain is still rejecting. He was on the phone at the party, I said. I was 6 feet away. He didn't know who I was. She looked up. What do you mean he didn't? Her eyes changed. Something connecting. Dad, were you there? Before the party, were you? I was on the crew list as a hauler. Flannel shirt. Old boots. I picked up my coffee. He walked past me twice. Didn't register once. Then, and this surprised me, she laughed. Short, sharp, not entirely happy but genuinely amused in the specific way that children laugh when they realize their parents are more complicated than they thought. You went undercover at my engagement party. I prefer field research. You, she shook her head. How long have you been doing this? 3 weeks. 3 weeks. She looked at the ceiling, then back at me. What else do you know? If you've been here a while and want stories like this to keep coming, hit that like button and subscribe. 97% of people never do, but it's what keeps this whole thing running. Thank you. For real. Now let's finish this. I told her about Miles Sutton, the skimming, the referrals, the 240,000. I told her about Leonard and the asset review. I told her what Preston's phone call meant in plain language, that he and Miles had a plan, that the plan involved Roy Callahan's money, and that the plan was built on information that was 4 months out of date. There is nothing to get into. There never was. Savannah listened to all of it without interrupting. That's her mother in her. Nora can hear the worst news in the world and process it in complete stillness before she speaks. When Savannah finally spoke, her voice was steady. I want to be the one to end it. Okay. Not you. Not Leonard. Not Hank. She looked at me directly. Me. I'm not arguing, but I want him to know that you know. I want him to sit across from you and understand that you heard every word. A pause. Can you do that? I thought about the diner in Decatur, the laminated menus, the coffee that burns all morning. Yeah, I said. I can do that. And Dad? She reached across the table, put her hand over mine the way she used to do when she was 7 years old and wanted me to know she was serious. Thank you for the flannel. I didn't deserve to laugh, but I did. The best verdicts aren't the loud ones. They're the ones delivered quietly, across a Formica table over bad coffee, while the other man slowly understands that every move he made was already accounted for. Monday morning. April 14th. I called Preston at 8 a.m., friendly, easy, the kind of call a future father-in-law makes when he wants to connect. Preston. Roy Callahan. Listen, I know we haven't had much one-on-one time. Want to grab breakfast this week? Just the two of us. Warmth on the other end. Immediate, practiced warmth. Absolutely, Roy. I'd really love that. Wednesday morning? There's a diner in Decatur I like. Linwood's on Commerce Drive, nothing fancy. You okay with that? A half beat. The half beat of a man recalibrating from the restaurant he'd imagined to the diner he's just been offered. Of course. Sounds great. 7:30. See you there. I hung up. Texted Hank, Wednesday. Linwood's. 7:30. Hank texted back. Want me close? No. This one's mine. Tuesday, April 15th. Hank delivered the completed file on Miles Sutton. Documented fee skimming across 4 accounts, wire transfer records, a pattern clean enough that Hank said the SEC would move on it within 60 days of receiving a formal tip. Leonard Cross reviewed everything Tuesday afternoon and called me at 5 p.m. Roy, the foundation documentation alone ends any claim Preston or an advisor acting on his behalf could make. But the Sutton material, that's a separate exposure. If Preston knew, we don't know that he knew. Correct. But if he did, then that's his problem to carry. I paused. Leonard, I don't want Preston in prison. I want Preston informed. There's a difference. Understood. A beat. And Savannah? Savannah's handling her side Wednesday afternoon. After I'm done with breakfast. She's a remarkable young woman, Roy. Don't tell Nora I said that. She'll expect me to be sentimental more often. Wednesday morning, April 16th, 6:55 a.m. Linwood's Diner on Commerce Drive in Decatur has been open since 1987. The menus are laminated and slightly sticky. The coffee is drip, served in ceramic mugs the color of old teeth, and has been burning on the same burner since 6 a.m. The booths are red vinyl, the lighting is fluorescent and completely indifferent to how you feel about yourself. I love it. I've been coming here since my first year on the bench. I arrived at 7:15 and took the corner booth. Ordered coffee. Opened the folder on the table. Not dramatically, just set it there the way you set down a newspaper. And waited. Preston arrived at 7:32, navy blazer. No tie. The studied casual of a man who wanted to seem relaxed without seeming unprepared. He spotted me in the corner, navigated the diner with the slight discomfort of someone who doesn't eat in places like this, and slid into the booth across from me. He looked at the folder, looked at me, smiled. Roy, great to order something first. I gestured to the menu. Eggs are good. They do a solid short stack. He ordered eggs. I had coffee. The waitress, a woman named Barb who has called me Han for 11 years, refilled my mug without being asked, and disappeared. Preston's eyes kept drifting to the folder. I let them. I waited until his eggs arrived. Let him take one bite. Let him settle into the false comfort of a normal breakfast. Then I slid the folder across the Formica table. Inside, a transcript of the phone call. Date, time, location, exact words. Her old man's loaded. Old school money. Doesn't really know what he has. Once we're in, Miles is going to love what we find. Under it, a single-page summary from Leonard Cross. The foundation transfer, October 4 months before Preston's name was ever mentioned in our house. The Brookhaven property, Savannah's trust, 2 years prior. The investment accounts, all restructured, all unreachable, all done for reasons that had nothing to do with Preston Whitfield and everything to do with standard estate planning. Under that, Hank's summary on Miles Sutton. The skimming, the accounts, the $240,000. Preston read. He read slowly. I watched his face do the work, the confusion first, then the recognition, then the specific stillness of a man who is calculating how much is known versus how much can still be denied. He set the papers down, looked up. Roy, this isn't the phone call that was taken out of context. I picked up my coffee, took a sip. What context would make it read differently, Preston? Silence. Miles and we weren't planning anything. It was loose talk. Guys talk like that. Men who love women don't talk about their inheritance as a portfolio to be modernized. Calm. Even. No anger. No volume. Not to me. Not in my experience. Preston's jaw moved. He looked at the Sutton summary. I didn't know about the skimming. I'm not involved in that. I believe you. I did, actually. Hank's documentation suggested Miles operated independently, but you referred 4 people to a man who was stealing from them. Whether you knew or not, those are your people, Preston. That's your name on those referrals. He had nothing for that. The diner hummed around us. Barb refilled someone's coffee 3 booths down. A man near the window read a paper. The world carried on, completely unaware that something was ending in the corner booth. Preston looked at the folder again, looked at me. Does Savannah know? She will by this afternoon. His face did something then. Not calculation. Something more honest, the The specific, deflating look of a man who has just understood that the woman he underestimated was never the soft target he thought she was. She's going to. He stopped. She's going to make her own decision, I said. That's all she's ever done. A long pause. Preston straightened, looked out the window at Commerce Drive. Something moved through him. I've watched enough men on the bench to know the moment they decide to drop the performance. It doesn't always look like defeat. Sometimes it looks like relief. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I do actually care about her. I looked at him for a moment. Honest look. The kind you give a man when you're deciding how much of what he says to believe. Then you should have led with that, I said, instead of the portfolio. He had nothing left. I closed the folder, slid it to my side of the table, picked up my coffee. Enjoy your eggs, Preston. I left Linwood's at 8:47, drove back to Brookhaven, sat in the kitchen with Nora, who had made tea and was reading and had the particular stillness of a woman who already knew how the morning had gone and was simply waiting for her husband to come home and confirm it. How was breakfast? She said without looking up from her book. Educational? For him or for you? Mostly for him. She turned a page. Is my daughter okay? She's going to be. I sat down across from her. She's handling her part this afternoon. Nora looked up. Her eyes did the thing they do, that quiet, thorough reading of my face that she's been doing for 34 years and that I have never once successfully hidden anything from. Roy Callahan. She set the book down. Did you go to that engagement party in your old flannel? A pause. It was field research. She stared at me for 4 full seconds. Then she picked her book back up. I'm going to need you to tell me everything. But first, go make fresh coffee. What you made this morning was criminal. Savannah called Preston at 2 p.m. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. She's her own woman, and this was her call to make. Not mine, not Leonard's, not Hank's. Just Savannah, a phone, and 6 weeks of small things that finally had a name. She told me about it that evening on the back porch of the Brookhaven house. The 3 of us, Savannah, Nora, me, with good coffee this time, and the Atlanta evening doing its slow April thing around us. He tried to explain the phone call. Savannah said, What did you say? She looked at her mug. I said I'd heard enough explanations. She'd sent him one text after the call. 2 words. We know. Preston Whitfield did not respond. Not that day. Gerald Whitfield, Preston's father, called me on Friday. Gentleman call. Old school. He apologized. Briefly, directly without excessive decoration. I told him I appreciated it and meant it. He asked if there was anything that could be. I stopped him there. Gerald, some things aren't fixable. Your son's a young man. He's got time to become someone different. I hope he does. A pause. Thank you, Roy. Miles Sutton's situation resolved itself without my direct involvement. Hank filed the documentation with the appropriate regulatory body and let the process run. 63 days later, Miles Sutton's licenses were under formal review. That's a matter of public record and not my story to tell in detail. I'll simply say that the accounts he'd been skimming were made whole by a settlement that happened faster than anyone expected, possibly because Miles Sutton did not want the full picture examined in public. Preston was not charged with anything, because Preston, as far as Hank could determine, genuinely hadn't known. He got out of a business partnership with Miles 3 weeks after our breakfast at Linwood's. Whether that was conscience or self-preservation, I don't know. Maybe both. Vivian Whitfield sent Savannah a card, handwritten, brief. I'm sorry things went this way. You're a wonderful girl. Savannah read it, set it on the counter, and made no comment. That was a form of grace I didn't teach her. She figured that one out herself. 4 months later, September, Savannah started seeing someone. A structural engineer from Marietta named Carter Webb. Quiet. Steady. The kind of man who shows up 10 minutes early and brings coffee for everyone without being asked. First time he came to Sunday dinner, I watched his hands, how he shook them, who he offered them to, whether he let go too fast. He helped Nora carry dishes to the kitchen without being asked. Twice. Talked to me for 40 minutes about municipal infrastructure with the genuine curiosity of a man who actually wanted to know things, not a man collecting intelligence. Nora found me in the kitchen afterward. Don't you dare put that boy in a flannel shirt, Roy Callahan. I know what you were just. Stop it. I looked through the kitchen door at Savannah laughing at something Carter said. The easy, unperformed laugh of a woman who is simply happy. Yeah, I thought. Okay. Fine, I said to Nora. No flannel. She handed me a dish towel. Good. Now dry these. Some people ask me if I regret how it all went. The disguise. The folder on the formica table. The enjoy your eggs. Not for a single morning. My daughter deserved the truth. She deserved a father who looked closely enough to find it. And Preston Whitfield deserved exactly what he got. A quiet, unhurried, completely documented breakfast with a retired federal judge who had 22 years of practice making men understand the precise weight of their own choices. No gavel, no bench, no robe, just flannel, a legal pad, and bad diner coffee. Turns out that's all you need. If you like this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories.